The date was May 26, 2008, just 4 months before the financial crisis devastated America. But what if I told you that one city suffered more than the rest? While rain poured over the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan, the sun was shining inside the Palace of Auburn Hills. This is where the Detroit Pistons clinched a Game 4 victory in the Eastern Conference Finals against Kevin Garnett and the Boston Celtics. The energy was electric as Antonio McDyess powered the Pistons to victory with 21 points and 16 rebounds. Detroit was rocking, and fans believed that they were just 6 wins away from hanging another banner. Cut the music. Not only was that game 17 years ago, but it was also the last time the Pistons won a playoff game. This was me at 10 years old. This is me now. The Detroit Pistons haven't won a playoff game in 6,160 days. But that was the past. Because in case you don't know, Detroit basketball is back and nobody is talking about them. So I will. Hey guys, I'm Jay-Z. Welcome back to our second video ever on this channel. I still have nothing to promote other than our first video, of course. And well, dropping a like and maybe subscribing. Let's get this video started, man. Did you hear that Luka got traded to the Lakers? Of course he did. That's old news. What about the Warriors landing Jimmy Butler and are finally winning games? You're on top of that too? All right. But what if I told you that a team from the Eastern Conference, the same team that set the all-time record for most consecutive losses last year, has officially secured a playoff spot? Not the play-in, the actual playoffs. As of this recording, they have the second best defense, the best three-point shooter in the league, and they've more than tripled their total win count from last season. Are you still not impressed? Oh wait, how could I forget? How about the literal future face of the NBA right there in front of you, who's leading a team from rock bottom back to being the respected franchise that they've always been? Adam Silver, get to marketing.
Yeah, we're not 2-26 bad. You know what I mean?
What's that saying again? People will criticize you quicker than they'll praise you? Or is it that they'll watch your struggles like a movie but act blind to your success?
But it's bad. It's very, very bad.
Anyways, the Detroit Pistons are the NBA's biggest kept secret. Let's talk about it. Last season, the Detroit Pistons set the record for the most consecutive losses in NBA history. But did you know this wasn't just an NBA record, but the longest losing streak in all of North American sports? The 76ers lost 28 straight games, but their streak spanned over 2 seasons. Similarly, the Chicago Cardinals had a losing streak that extended across 3 seasons. The Pistons somehow managed to lose 28 in a row in just 1 season. Talk about an impressive feat. Every news outlet was covering the storyline closely, which doesn't come by surprise because this was an absolute disaster class for the city of Detroit.
Crunch time without Lowry Markkanen.
But hold on now. The Detroit Pistons weren't always the laughing stock of the NBA. In fact, they were the most feared.
Give and take with Shaq.
From 2002 to 2008, the Detroit Pistons weren't just a team, they were a culture. A defensive powerhouse built on toughness, teamwork, and pure grit.
That is one of the most amazing blocks that I have ever seen.
I don't need to go into all the details, but here's what the Pistons walked away with during those years. The 2004 championship, 6 straight visits to the conference finals, 6 division titles, 4-time defensive player of the year in Ben Wallace, 4 different all-stars, multiple Hall of Famers, and my all-time favorite forgotten stat. They held 5 teams in a row under 70 points in a game. Who knows how many championships they could have had if they drafted Carmelo Anthony instead of, you know.
I'm kind of sick right now. I am sick right now.
In case you can't already tell, I'm a Pistons fan. Yeah, I know, laugh it up. I'm 27 years old, so I didn't have the opportunity to watch the bad boys in the late 80s and early 90s. But let me tell you, in my 27 years of being alive, it wasn't all that bad. Did we have 10 different coaches in the last 17 years? Sure. Of course we've made the playoffs twice since 2010. Did both runs end in sweeps? Well, I mean, that's a different story. The Pistons haven't won a playoff game since 2008. Currently, the longest NBA playoff win drought in history belongs to the Sacramento Kings. As of now, the Pistons playoff losing streak stands at 14 straight losses. 2009, 2016, and 2019 all sweeps. If they make the playoffs again and go down 0-3, they will set the all-time record for most consecutive playoff losses in NBA history. But that's crazy talk, because in case you don't know, the Detroit Pistons are back. Hold on, Kate, let me not get ahead of myself. I still have a stage to set. Let's see, should I start with the many failed free agent signings or one of the worst trades in NBA history? And no, I'm not talking about the Luka trade. How about we start with the free agents that have failed miserably in Detroit over the last few years? During the 2009 offseason, the Detroit Pistons signed Ben Gordon and Charlie Villanueva. Gordon at $55 million and Villanueva for $35 million. Not sense. Both signings were a part of the Pistons' attempt to retool the team after their successful run in the early 2000s. But unfortunately, neither of them worked out in Detroit. Instead, you had 11-year-old me going to school and telling everyone that Rodney Stuckey is going to be the next Kobe Bryant. Can you tell that I was bullied as a child? Don't worry though, there's always 2010.
Time to meet and greet the new baller.
The Pistons signed Tracy McGrady to a 1-year contract. I bet most people watching this didn't even know the Pistons had T-Mac. But I remember. Oh, I remember. But hey, at least we have the 2010 NBA draft to get excited about, right? Hey, there's always next year. Okay. But surely next year.
Deal is official. 4 years, $54 million.
All right, this sounds like a sick joke, but we also could have had Devin Booker instead of Stanley Johnson. You know, as I'm recording this, I'm kind of just getting sad. Cade, my guy, we're almost there. I gotta show everyone how loyal of a fan I've been. As you can see, the Pistons organization has made plenty of bad decisions over the years, whether it's bad signings or bad draft picks. Notice how I haven't mentioned our draft pick in 2003? Yeah, that's the one who shall not be named. There were some bright spots though. The Pistons made the playoffs under new coach and GM Stan Van Gundy in 2016. Even though we got swept by, yep, you guessed it, LeBron James again, things were starting to look up for the city of Detroit. That is until...
The trade completed moments ago, according to ESPN, will send Avery Bradley, Tobias Harris, Boban Marjanovic, and 2 picks, a first and second rounder, to the Clippers for Griffin, a former #1 overall selection.
Stan Van Gundy pulled off one of the craziest trades in NBA history. Now, I'm telling you as a hardcore Pistons fan, Detroit was rocking.
Open man is Harrell, who gets absolutely stoned at the apex by Griffin.
Sure, we may have traded Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, Boban Marjanovic, a first rounder and a second rounder, but Pistons fans could tell Blake was about to play out of his mind. Blake Griffin was playing at an all-NBA level that year, but something felt off. I was 20 years old at that point, so don't bully me for what I'm about to say, but Blake Griffin was by far the best player I have ever seen in a Pistons jersey. There, I said it. I was too young to see Grant Hill play, and the 04 Pistons were just a group of talented guys, not one superstar like Blake was. I didn't miss a single game that year, and I could tell you that as the season went on, yes, Blake was putting up career numbers, but he was starting to move a little bit slower. And as the playoffs began, it started without the man who single-handedly got them there, Blake Griffin. He missed the first 2 games of that series where Detroit got absolutely embarrassed by Giannis and the Bucks. Although he managed to return for games 3 and 4, the Pistons got swept by the Bucks and Blake could barely walk anymore. He gave Detroit everything he had left in the tank and left it all on the floor.
This is the Detroit mentality. They'll look back on what he has done these last 2 ball games, to play in these games and give everything that he possibly could give. I mean, that's kudos to that man right there.
The Pistons ended up waiving Blake Griffin 3 years later due to constant injuries. And that chapter for the Pistons had come to an end. Another failed experiment has led to yet another rebuild. I know we dove pretty deep into the Pistons past, but trust me, it was worth it. All right, bro, it's your time.
In the 2021 NBA draft, the Detroit Pistons select Cade Cunningham from Oklahoma State University.
The Pistons selected Cade Cunningham, a 6'6" playmaker out of Oklahoma State. Hailed as a future star, Cunningham was expected to be the franchise cornerstone for years to come.
Detroit, I'm all the way in. Detroit Pistons, I'm all the way in. Let's do it.
Despite his talent, his rookie year was a bit rocky. Cade missed early games due to an ankle injury, but eventually showcased his potential. He averaged 17.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 5.5 assists. Another huge bright spot for the Pistons was Isaiah Stewart, who made headlines for, well, his altercation with LeBron James. The Pistons, however, finished with a record of 23-59, the second worst in the Eastern Conference. But we can finally see the potential. The Pistons entered 2022 with renewed optimism, selecting the quick and talented Jaden Ivey with the 5th pick and acquiring Jalen Duren, a promising center, with the 11th pick. However, disaster struck early.
The Detroit Pistons will be without last season's #1 overall pick for the rest of the season. According to ESPN sources, Cade Cunningham plans to have season-ending surgery on his left shin.
Personally, I don't think it warranted shutting him down for the year, but why risk it with a young budding star? Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, on the other hand, gained valuable experience, proving to be major bright spots in an otherwise lost season. And, well, Killian Hayes also plays basketball. Without Cade, the team obviously struggled, finishing with the NBA's worst record, 17-65. The silver lining? The Pistons had the best odds for the 2023 NBA lottery, hoping to land the generational prospect, Victor Wembanyama.
The 5th pick will be made by the Detroit Pistons.
The San Antonio Spurs select Victor Wembanyama.
Well, they didn't get Wemby, but they did draft one of the Thompson twins, Asar Thompson. Known for his elite athleticism, defensive versatility, and playmaking, he was seen as a great fit alongside Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. While missing out on Wemby was disappointing, Thompson's potential as a two-way star brought a lot of optimism in Detroit. That's not all, though. In June 2023, Pistons fans were hoping that Monty Williams, who was signed to a lucrative contract, would steer the franchise back into prominence. I want to reiterate this again. He was given the largest contract in NBA history. All he had to do was be better than last year and get more than 17 wins. Spoiler alert, he didn't do that. Under head coach Monty Williams, the Pistons endured a franchise worst 14-68 record, the worst in the league. Again, this included the famous 28-game losing streak, setting the NBA record for the longest within a single season. Monty was inevitably fired, but was still paid the remaining $65 million on his contract. Now that we've gotten all the ugly stuff out of the way, let's talk about the 2024 offseason for the Detroit Pistons, or as I'm calling them, NBA's biggest kept secret. The Detroit Pistons entered the 2024 offseason with one goal: change. After a historically rough season, the franchise made significant moves to reshape its roster and coaching staff. But did they do enough? Let's break it all down. Enter JB Bickerstaff, former Cleveland Cavaliers head coach. The Pistons are hoping he can bring structure and development to their young core. Remember how Detroit was the worst team in the NBA for 2 years in a row? Yeah, we fell to the 5th pick again, thanks to the 76ers and their trust the process art. Although we did get extremely lucky drafting Ron Holland, a dynamic athletic forward who brings defensive intensity and scoring potential. He was actually perfect for what the Pistons needed. Next up, free agency. Detroit made some key veteran signings to surround their young stars with experience and shooting. A familiar face returns, Tobias Harris, bringing scoring and leadership. Malik Beasley, who's a sharp shooter with something to prove, and Simone Fontecchio, solid shooter with an amazing three-point celebration. The Pistons also added Paul Reed to help with their front court depth. Remember, I'm a Pistons fan. All we wanted this year was to be better than the last. Although the Pistons started with a record of 0-4 in the 2024 season, you can tell that the vibe has completely shifted. But one thing has remained a constant.
It's the 6'6", Cade Cunningham.
The former #1 pick has been nothing short of spectacular, averaging career highs across the board and earning his first ever NBA All-Star selection. He has been the heart and soul of this team. He may have been an All-Star this season, but I think he 100% deserves an All-NBA selection. What do you think? Also, I have an embarrassing confession. You remember being a kid and having an athlete as your lock screen wallpaper? Well, I'm 27 now, and I have a 23-year-old Cade Cunningham as my lock screen. If he somehow sees this, Cade, you have literally saved my life, and I'm not sorry.
Come on, I can't wait to see you at draft night, Daddy.
Anyways, Jalen Duren. He may have had a slow start to the season, but guess what? He held himself accountable. He knew he wasn't playing well, and he came out and said that he's been playing like garbage. The second half to his season has been a completely different story. Not only is he averaging a double-double, but he's dominating on both ends of the floor and proving why he deserves a big contract extension. Oh yeah, and he's only 21 years old. Look at this guy. He's a grown man. How is he 21? And then there's Malik Beasley, who's been on a mission all year long. Given the ultimate green light, he's been letting it fly, proving to the world that when it comes to shooting, he is in a league of his own.
He's got 6 3-pointers,
and now he's dancing,
enjoying taunting the fans
and prancing.
Wait, I feel like I'm forgetting someone who's also having a career year. Just as the Pistons really started clicking with a record of 14-18, it happened. In a blink of an eye, the Pistons lost their secondary scorer and playmaker for the rest of the season.
Down from behind inadvertently by Cole Anthony, but Jaden Ivey's in a lot of pain.
You're probably wondering, that's it? Is the Pistons season over just like that? Guys, please. Their season is just getting started.
Gets the ball against Bam. Pulls up for the win. Got it! Detroit basketball with the lead with 0.6 to go.
Malik Beasley with a huge hoop and a shimmy.
Don't touch me, I'm sizzling.
He's sizzling.
The Pistons, as of March 23rd, have a record of 40-32, just one game behind the 4th-seeded Pacers. Weird, right? The Pistons lose their second most efficient player, and yet they somehow improve? Let me explain. Tobias Harris. Stop laughing. Turns out he was actually good at basketball all along. Philly fans only hated him because of the contract that they gave him. I'm sure the 76ers would love a do-over right about now. Next, we have Asar Thompson. He may have missed the first half of the season due to blood clots, but since returning, he has shown otherworldly athleticism and some of the best perimeter defense I have ever seen in my entire life. Because of the clots that I previously mentioned, Asar missed out on developing his abilities over the last offseason. Once he improves his jump shot and tightens those handles, he's going to be one of the best small forwards in the NBA. Oh, and by the way, he's only 22. Now, don't get me started about the Pistons bench. Dennis Schroeder, Ron Holland, and remember Isaiah Stewart? Schroeder was added at the trade deadline because Detroit needed another ball handler when Ivy went down with an injury. He fits in with the Pistons way better than he did with the Warriors. Oh, and the Jazz, and the Nets, and the Hawks. Ron Holland and Isaiah Stewart embody the true spirit of Detroit. Ron brings relentless energy and gives his all every single night. The moment this 19-year-old kid develops his jump shot, it might be over for the league when they see Ron Holland walking on the court. I also see way too many people on TikTok say that Isaiah Stewart doesn't play basketball and that all of his highlights are him getting in fights. You don't know ball. You don't see Beef Stew highlights because he's not out there camping at the three-point line throwing up 100 shots a night. He's putting in the real work, becoming one of the league's best defenders and shot blockers. This man reminds me of Big Ben Wallace. Undersized, yet rises up with the best. Speaking of which, if y'all want a Big Ben video, let me know in the comment section down below. Oh yeah, and there's one man I want to thank for all of this.
Is get the same respect that everybody else in this league gets and get refereed the same way that everybody else in this league gets ref.
He is the exact coach that Detroit needs. I feel like I didn't talk about Cade enough, so just real quick. He was an all-star. He's a front runner for an all-NBA spot. He's going to win most improved player, and he's one of the most ethical point guards in the entire NBA. This has all been just the tip of the iceberg. At the time of recording this, the Pistons have already won 40 games. Last year, they had 14. The year before that, they had 17. Add those 2 years up, and what do you get? 31 wins. The Pistons have way more wins this season than they did in the last 2 seasons combined. They are only 1 game behind the Pacers for the 4th seed. Are you still not getting it? The Pistons went from setting the all-time record for losses in a row to now being in position to host their very own playoff series in Detroit. This type of improvement should not go unnoticed. So why is it that every time I check ESPN, Stephen A. Smith is talking about LeBron breaking a fingernail? Even better, why is Kai Cenat on ESPN debating who the GOAT is? People wonder why the NBA ratings are down. It's because you have these professional sports analysts who are paid millions, by the way, who don't even bother watching the games.
Chauncey's the coach, right?
Okay.
Portland. No.
Chauncey, he coaches.
Who's the coach?
JB Bickerstaff.
Yeah, Bickerstaff. That's what I meant. Hey, you know, first of all, I don't watch Detroit. How about that? Boo boo.
On the Detroit Pistons right now.
Oh, stop it. They're boring too. You know.
In Shaq's defense, I know he's still salty about losing to the Pistons in 04. Unfortunately, I know this has to be said. Otherwise, I'm gonna get a bunch of hate comments. The Detroit Pistons are not going to win the NBA championship this season. There, I said it. They might not even sniff the second round. So you might be wondering, why make this video if they're not championship contenders? Pistons fans just wanted to see some improvement from last year. They did that. We also wanted to see Cade take that next big leap. He did that. How about maybe if all the stars aligned, the play-ins were a possibility? They crushed that. The Detroit Pistons are a playoff lock and could make some serious noise in the East. I'm not saying they're title contenders, but whoever they go up against will have to leave the arena in crutches, because this is what Detroit is all about. Getting knocked down and left to die isn't unfamiliar territory. We're gonna kick you in the teeth, and when you punch us back, we're gonna smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're gonna get back up. And on the way up, we're gonna bite a kneecap off. Detroit basketball is not for the weak-hearted. We don't wait for the game to come to us. We take it. Every bucket, every block, Every rebound is earned through sweat and grit. We don't back down, we break you down. This is Detroit versus everybody. If you enjoyed, don't forget to drop a like and maybe even subscribe. Not bad for a boring basketball team, huh?